And welcome to the Run Local podcast. It's a podcast where we invite guests across the spectrum of society, including elite athletes, entrepreneurs, local legends, and beyond. We utilize the sport of running to learn more about these individuals, their community, and what they're doing to change the world. We believe in the power of movement and doing the doable at a local level. And so unlike other podcasts, you'll get the opportunity to jump between a myriad of hosts. Sometimes it's me, JT Service, the founder of Run Local. Sometimes it's just Josh Muxon, who's the voice of Run Local. Jimmy Coleman does a side podcast called The Side Hustle. Today, you get Josh and JT, both with IPAs in our hands, which makes us even more fired up to be recording with a friend and an alumnus of my college, and that is UC Santa Barbara, Dani Moreno. Josh, we have Dani Moreno.
That's fantastic, JT. Look, you gave folks a warning about whether or not they wanted to stay on for the podcast, but I think you brought them back in to the fold with the introduction of Dani.
They were about to jump off, you think, like right away. They were like, no, now we're done.
They're like,
That's kind of interesting.
It's all about
Dani, welcome to the Run Local.
Surprise and delight. Dani, welcome to Run Local Pod. Thanks for making the time to chat with us. And one thing that we normally do with all of these podcasts is get out of your way, because we know that no one knows you better than you know yourself. So one thing that we love to do with all of our guests is tell us who you are, Dani.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super stoked to be on. My name is Dani Moreno. I'm a professional trail and mountain runner for HOKA One Rabbit, and I'm also a newly minted coach with Chasky Endurance Collective, so that's really exciting. I focus on mostly races. Mountain marathons are kind of my bit, or really technical races. We call them sky races, and I've been running professionally for just a little over 3 years. Ran at UCSB, proud Gaucho alumni, where I ran the 5 and 10K, and pretty much have been running more of my life now than I haven't, which is something I discovered the other day.
Oh, that's
I know,
cool.
It's crazy. But yeah.
You're younger than me. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I figured that out 10 years ago.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm not racing right now, obviously with everything with COVID and stuff, but really excited about my training and still getting out there and getting after it.
Well, one of the things that's super awesome. I'm going to jump in and interrupt JT, which is pretty much par for the course. So buckle up. This is going to happen a bunch. One of the things that it's really interesting you say that. I mean, I know there's no races that are going on, and you said you're running more of your life now than not running. Has the training changed at all? Have you spent more time out there doing the things you love, just with all of the, no fine tuning for races or anything like that?
Yeah, it was kind of weird at first. I think everyone was kind of in this weird limbo state where we first were getting used to the idea of not knowing, whereas I think that's more comfortable now. I think running attracts a lot of perfectionist type of attitudes and personalities, very type A. So we like having okay, X plus Y gets us to Z, and Z is X amount of months or weeks away. And not having that Z, I think, threw a lot of people off, including myself. And I consider myself like a type A minus B plus personality. So I'm like, all right, let's roll with the punches. But I think it was difficult for everyone. It was difficult for me. At the beginning, I kind of just went to the mountains a lot more than I normally would, whereas normally I pace it out just based on what works for me. And now we just have little tests for me instead of races. And I found out really quickly that I almost gravitated to still having that structure in running, just because everything else feels like there's no control to it.
Yeah. Well, all of that calculus, I think X plus Y equals Z, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're the one making sense of it all. Like I said, JT, the wheels are spinning there.
You're like,
I'm not a math guy. I'm an artist. I'm more like the soft sciences.
Yeah,
you're social sciences. Isla Vista was a really strong place for me. Not a lot of math, just what's up, bro? How are you? How's everybody? You feel like you're the mayor of Trigo or something like that. It was really good times, Josh. You would have flourished.
Is this all UCSB stuff?
Yes, it is. Sorry.
Okay, so
We're naming the small neighborhoods and streets of Isla Vista and Goleta.
it's all gaucho talk.
It is all gaucho talk. Let's talk a little bit about the gauchos. You are the second gaucho female we've had on this podcast. Our first guest ever was Steph Rothstein, Steph Bruce. I never know what to call her, even when I like talk to her, but I've known her for a really long time. Do you know Steph?
Yeah, she's come to town a couple times for a race. It's called the She Is Beautiful race.
Oh yeah.
We don't know each other extremely well, but we know each other.
That's really cool. Anyway, so it's great to have another gaucho on. I think this is only the second one. I'm glad we're sticking to only the females. The males are disruptive and frankly not really even informative.
I didn't get a chance. I didn't get a chance to experience the wonders of life in Santa Barbara as a undergraduate co-ed. So Dani, give me a highlight. Like if you're pitching Santa Barbara as like a place for a runner to go to, either an ancient runner like myself or a brand new one. I mean, what's the pitch? Why should I go to Santa Barbara?
I feel like it's a hard question because I feel like people who live in Santa Barbara purposely underpitch it so that everyone here.
Stay away. It's kind of foggy.
LA, tons of smog. No, it's quite the opposite. I think first off, people tend to loop it in with LA, and it's very much not the same at all. For me, running on the trails, the most I'll drive is maybe half an hour. You can usually get to the Front Range 10 to 15 minutes. And every runner that I've had visit here from like my professional and elite friends are always taken aback by how much water there is. People just assume it's like Southern California and that it's a little more dry. It's not quite as lush as Northern California, but we get like our waterfalls and like the streams and rivers and stuff like that. And it's really technical terrain. So most people, again, when they think of Southern California, which they loop us in together, it's kind of just like these flat fire roads, which are beautiful in their own way. But our trails really get you ready for races with a lot of vert and that are really technical, which is a little hard to come by. And we have our whole the Los Padres National Forest, which is like one of the least visited national forests in my opinion, and it's just such a great resource for us to have because we have all this land. Pretty much every trail run I've ever done in the backcountry, I'll see like maybe one person, and I know that's just not the case with these other like trail towns that other people live in, where you'll see like every person that you know of and their mother. But yeah, it's really cool. You can get vert, you can get miles, and the community's awesome. And the best part is whenever you get to the top, you can see the backcountry, which during the winter has snow, and then you have the ocean. And it's just kind of a surreal place that I've only ever experienced that type of landscape in Patagonia, where you see snow-covered peaks and water of that mass at the same time.
That was an amazing description, but also I gotta commend you on your humble brag about Patagonia, which is like,
I've only been there a handful of times.
I mean, it was okay, I suppose. I mean, we're gonna get to that part for sure. Just the general curiosity. But JT, does that before we go off to Patagonia? Does that square with your experiences at?
It's different. It is different. No, I know what she's saying. Like I've been back there and I've hiked or Seven Falls or done some of the Camino Cielo, like a long run along there. But we stuck when I was in college at UC Santa Barbara. We stuck so much to the flatland and to, it was very specified training. It was like go out and do a tempo, and you can't go out and explore these trails, or we just didn't do it enough. And I don't know, Dani, if you did it a ton in college, but I feel like there was a lot left to be desired. And I still had an amazing time and an amazing experience with the program. It was like A was this way down the coast and B was this way down the coast. We would just decide which way to run that day, or we were on the track or on a bike path or something like that. So I feel like I left a lot on the table in Santa Barbara by not exploring as many of the trails in the single and technical pieces as Dani's referring to. So I think I have to just try again. I'm going to go back for another 4 years to trail college in Santa Barbara and let Dani coach me.
I give a big thumbs up for that. I completely agree though, because sometimes a lot of people are like, how long have you been in Santa Barbara? And technically I've been here since 2010 when I was going to school. But very similar experience where like in college, your life is this like square by mile dystopian kind of slum of a place, right? That's where you live. And then you have these little runs that go either this way or this
The
way.
bluffs or the
Yeah.
bluffs. Yeah.
And most people in college don't even have a car because it's so crowded. You just bike everywhere, wherever your bike can take you, and you occasionally go downtown if you're feeling crazy. But yeah, it's crazy to go back there, one, to see all the children, and be like, wow, I was a toddler carrying around a 6-pack of beer. That's crazy. And then to realize how much of my life was in such a small part of what this area has to offer. Even just with the cultural aspect and, you know, the different tribes that lived here, whether it's Chumash and stuff like that, in the backcountry, just having that experience has really been eye-opening too. And then I was an outdoor guide right after school, and so I was out on the Channel Islands all the time, and I was like, I didn't even ever think to go out here when I was in college. I was just like, oh, it's cool, there's land out there. But even that's cool. Amazing.
Yeah. So
I was just saying, so you probably both were spending most of your free time in the library, right?
I mean, you kind of had, in a way. I kind of did a little bit. Like I like school, so don't be mean if that's what you mean. Like I'm a little nerdy, Josh. Thanks for nothing. Anyways, and yes, school is tough there. It's tough to get into UC Santa Barbara. We have like 4 Nobel laureates in the last 20 years, so I don't know what Idaho's producing right now.
I mean, just like, I don't know, just like forestry management. So if you're into that sort of thing, like if you like the environment,
well, actually, Dani probably is into that too.
You go write your poems. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of the land. You know.
I love it. Okay. Well, there was one more section of Santa Barbara that I just found, which was just north of El Cap, or I don't even know if that's north at that point. If that's west, depends on the side of the map they're looking at. But just north there, and then south of Gaviota, there's this like great little stretch of coastline that we just camped like off the side of the road and on a side road. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think there's surf here. I don't know what I was thinking on that too, like just surfing in the same spots all the time. So I think the whole thing is like, maybe the lesson is getting out of your typical thing, like that run A or run B or surfing sands or surfing depressions or whatever it's going to be, like seeking a little bit more. And I feel like I could do that still in where I live now. But well, there are hidden gems everywhere around us.
I think that's a super interesting point. So Dani, one of the things that I was curious about from your perspective is like, there's always this assumption that as you're an athlete, as a track athlete, the transition into the professional realm has to go on the track, right? It's achieved domestically, maybe run a few cross country races, couple of road races, go to Europe, spend a time on the circuit in Europe, you know, all that stuff. It's just circles, circles, circles. You took a different approach, right? And tell us about like, when did you realize like, hey, maybe the circles aren't as cool as I thought they should be, and you decided to, I mean, honestly, go to another extreme with altitude and trails and things like that. How did that decision come about?
Yeah, it was it was kind of a crazy experience in the sense that I had fallen out of love with the sport. I didn't really plan on doing it competitively ever again or taking it to the level that I had in college where it was pretty much my life. Along with school, but it was just those two worlds. It was running and school. And I don't know, it just left me with a bad taste in my mouth. I realized at least for me personally, how much I felt like I had missed out on in college by just living in those two worlds. And so after school, that's when I started outdoor guiding. And first I did a nonprofit where I just worked with kids. And that was really fun. And we traveled all over California. We did kayaking, climbing, backpacking, just all these really rad things and really cool places. And that's kind of where I started to run just a little bit. And it was kind of an accident in the sense that there was some kids who were on a trip that were on like the cross country team of that school, and they needed someone to go with them, like a chauffeur or whatever. And they're like, Dani used to run. I'm like, I guess I can just take these kids on a run. And I was horribly out of shape. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Where we're running, it's on these trails. We don't really know where we're going. The kids had like their plan, and I did that for a couple days with them. And then past that, I just started doing that on my own on the islands when I started working with a different company, where I would live on the islands for multiple days in a row, and I didn't want to just stay at camp, and I didn't want to hike because it was too slow for me. So then I started running gradually. And then I was working for a family in Santa Barbara, and the mom, who kind of acted like it's the second mom for me, she's like, you should see if you could like fast hike competition, or she didn't know what trail running was. There's probably something of that sort that you could do and like find your niche again. And then that's when I literally just went on Google and put like mountain hiking fast, like
mountain hiking
trails faster, or something like that. And I started looking like up adventure races and stuff. And I was like, well, I don't have enough money to commit to that at this time. And then I just found trail running, and then just went down a rabbit hole. I was like, whoa, this is a whole new world. I can just do this. I don't have to do it competitively. This is just something really fun. And I just started training again, and I did a race in San Luis Obispo, and I like won the whole thing. It was a really small race, but for me, winning something in college was really, really hard. Not that this race wasn't hard, but I was like, I just got off the couch and won this race, and I won this cup. In college, I would just get a pat on the back and like, thanks for 1 point or 2 points for the
got a couple points.
I got a cup. This is awesome. And I started looking up other races. I was like, holy wow, there's like prize money for this. I can get 5th place and win $100. And so where it really started to change for me, and like, I guess to your question of like this big transition, I guess that was like a little inkling of it. I wasn't training. I was just kind of like jumping in things. But there was this race up in San Francisco where there was a decent amount of prize money. First place was like $1,500, which to me at the time was, you were rich if you had $1,500 being a post grad out of college. And I just thought I could get in the top 5, which again would put me like in $100 or something. And I ended up winning, and my mind was blown. And yeah, I was like, cha-ching, I could do this for a living maybe. This is crazy. But more so, it was that people came up to me after the race and were so intrigued with me. Like, where did you come from? Do you know who you just beat? One of the girls who I beat was like the former USA champion at the time. And to this day, like she's a good friend of mine. And she's like, no one knew who you were. Maria Dalzot. She's yeah. Like no one knew how I was. She's like, do you realize you're running like 5:40s on that downhill? And I wasn't even wearing a watch for the race because the race was really long. It was the longest I'd run in my life. And yeah, it was just this surreal feeling. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, no one forced me to find this sport. It's technically still running. And I feel so much of myself here. And that's when I started exploring the trails on my own and really getting into map reading and all the gadgets and gadgets that come with trail running. I found really interesting, like, oh, you need to bring food so you don't like pass out, and like you need to bring survive. Like yeah, exactly. I'm like, if you bonk like 5 miles away from the trailhead, what are you gonna do? And it was just all these different problem solving things. Whereas on the track, your problem solving is, do I go with the pack or not? Not to oversimplify the sport, but that's kind of the extent of it. Whereas this is like pacing out your feeding and the drinking of the water and stuff like that. And I love the variety. I think that was a big problem for me in college, is keeping me focused. It's like, Dani, just focus. I'm like, but we're just doing the same thing, you know?
Focus on what?
Yeah. It's like, is this train red or is it red?
Yeah, you know? Yeah, exactly. It's like, are we doing 2 more laps? Okay, we're doing 2 more laps. Yeah. But yeah, I just love the variety. And eventually I began to seek out a coach just people were like, you should get a coach, you should get a coach, you should get a coach. And the coach that I have now, I'm like really grateful for him because he noticed that I wasn't ready to fully commit to this new sport. And again, there weren't a lot of track runners transitioning. Like my PRs are decent, but they're not like all American level, even for when I was in college. Mid 16s for the 5K, low 34 for the 10K. So they're solid, but nothing that like a Saucony would have been like, we're going to sign you post college. But for the trail running world, they're like, holy smokes, you're fast. Yeah. And I never saw a world where that was going to, I don't know, that would surprise people. So that was also, I recognized that I was kind of ahead of a trend, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
To make sure we get a good shout out, who's your coach now?
Terry Howe. He is amazing. Yeah, he's in Santa Barbara. Huh?
He's in Santa Barbara?
Yeah, he's local. He coaches Curly. He's also local.
DJ Curly?
Yeah, DJ Curly.
So DJ Curly's my era back in Santa Barbara.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was on the team for 2 years, and then he had like a little falling out. I don't know if it was coach, but it was kind of like a falling out with life too. And I think he'd be the first to admit that. And he has like come back now at the age of 38, qualified for the trials last year, lost like 50 pounds. He's a pretty cool story in Santa Barbara. He's a TSA at the airport, like, and he's been working for that since like 9/11, I think, since like 2001, like way back.
Wow. Yeah, and that's another good, I mean, it's another good story of like folks, and Dani, you're highlighting this, of like just kind of like figuring out like what makes life fun, you know, what keeps us going. I'm sure as you kind of like continue to progress in your career, you know, there's other folks that came to you for like these sponsorship ideas and opportunities to allow you a little bit more freedom to do even cooler things, right? Like you talked a little bit at the very beginning about this idea of sky races, and I don't really know what that is. I thought that was like a movie.
It sounds cool though.
It sounds
like you're floating on the clouds.
It sounds amazing.
You're like, it's Blade Runner? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Ian, isn't that Ian? Ian, what's his name that started the sky racing series?
Oh, like here in the States?
Yeah. I thought he started like a version here, but whatever. They have them everywhere.
Yeah.
So what is it? What is a sky race?
Sky races are the best races in my opinion. They're so basically, yeah, end of story. They're typically the most technical. Most sky races are between like 6,000 and 14,000 feet as far as the altitude goes, and most of the time, I say most because you know you have your bookends. They're about 25 to 30K, and they average between like 5,000 and 8,000 feet of climbing. And they have like more technical ones where usually you get on a ridge line and you're actually doing some light scrambling, or they'll have like a chain where you're like holding on to the edge of a cliff. They have one here in Lake Tahoe that's pretty well known, Broken Arrow, where you get to the top and you climb this rickety ladder and you're like crawling in the snow at the top. And then depending on how much snow there is that year, you could be very much riding the snow on the way down and on the way up. But yeah, it's pretty much just like high peaks where you have a little bit of gnarliness, even though they already naturally have gnarliness to them. And yeah, they're just really cool. They're considered the most technical races in the like trail running world. If you're like, I'm going to pursue sky racing, it's like, oh, okay.
Basically running on the top of mountains, like that. Yeah. It's literally running on the top of mountains. Is that?
Yeah, that's the sky running part. Is like you're typically above the clouds.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool.
I'm just going like, well, I went on the bay for a few miles yesterday.
Yeah, did you? That's called bay running.
Bay running.
It's you're well below the clouds. If you're curious, you're well below the clouds. Just at the level set. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Oh, that's so cool.
That is super.
I need to know. I want to know a typical day then in your life in Santa Barbara. Like, what would it look like? I know it, and knowing you, because you can't stay focused all the time, the days probably are different every other day. But how about an ideal day? What's an ideal day look like? Morning to
Yeah.
Pillow back on the head back on the pillow.
Well, I do work full time at a tech company, so I have to stay focused Monday through Friday. So we'll leave those. As far as the weekend goes, waking up early and doing like a good mountain run, I really love like close to 3 hour mountain runs. That's just where I feel most like myself. I'm out there for a good amount of time. I'm eating and stuff like that, and then eating a lot afterwards, and then either taking a nap or going straight into another activity, whether it's fishing with my boyfriend or climbing with friends, surfing. We've done that a couple of times. I just like balancing the day out and feeling like I'm filling it up. But yeah, I that's pretty ideal for me. And then hanging out with my dog River, of course.
That's cool. Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Favorite restaurant, favorite healthy spot to eat or non-healthy spot? I don't know.
Brazil Arts Cafe. It's on Upper
Oh,
State Street. They're
yeah.
super good. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have
Our
like
producer David Monaco has taken me there a few times. One of his favorite spots too. You probably run into him only because there's 17 people that live in Santa Barbara. So
yeah. That's so true.
Yeah.
Every time I'm out, I'm like, either I'm really popular or Santa Barbara's really small because I always see someone I know.
Probably a little column A, probably a little column B. What is next? Like, what do you have? What do you see? Are there any big races that you would love to happen that you could see happening in the fall or maybe next year? Is there something your money pointing to in terms of a traverse or something like that, or going for a record, or maybe not? Maybe you're just kind of like letting it flow right now.
Oh, and an add-on. I'm gonna throw an add-on to this. Like, if you could put together a race, like where would you want to put together a race?
Okay,
Um,
so there's
around
two-parter.
Okay. Well,
Anywhere.
I'll do a little side appreciation. There's this guy in town who made like an SBVK when this all first started, and everyone in town went after it. And I think we just really appreciated that as a community. He like put together a website and stuff. And he just picked this route that everyone did. And then he's done another version of it on our trail. So he just keeps on coming up with these challenges that everyone keeps doing.
That's
So
cool.
I've
Wait, let's
appreciated.
dig into that a little bit. How are they doing it? Are they like, is it a Strava segment? And then you basically, everyone's just trying to best their own time or best each other and getting after it?
Yeah, basically he made this website called SBVK. And if you're in the Santa Barbara area, you pretty much know based off his directions like what the route would be. Like I think if someone from out of town came in, they would have a little more trouble figuring it out.
Yeah.
But it's like, considering everything going on, you should be doing this by yourself. These are the required items. You should have water and stuff. Basically, just like, I don't want anyone to sue me, so I doubt anyone would. And you do the Strava segment, and then, you just see who the top 10 is. And he was pulling times for like a certain window and putting them on the website. And it was cool to see, this person went out after it yesterday. This person went after it today. And everyone kind of took their stab at it. And it was cool because like the first week no one was really doing it. And then you're like, oh shoot, 10 people did it. Oh, 20 people did it. Oh wow, now 30 people did it. And it was cool to kind of see that momentum build and that the community was stoked about it. So now he made a new course because I don't know, it's a really hard course. It's like 6 miles with over 3,000 feet of climbing.
Damn.
You're not going to keep doing that. So he made a new one, which is awesome.
How'd you do?
I did all right. I think I'm like 12th overall the last time I checked between the girls and the guys, and I was sub 70 minutes. Yeah, it was a good effort.
That's cool. And that's something that could happen anywhere, Josh. You could create a segment on the Bay Trail, nice and low, like 3 miles, flat, super boring. That'd be good for you.
Yeah, no turns, all pavement, out and back preferably. Yeah, I think that's probably the way I do it. Yeah,
I'm being facetious. Josh sells himself short. He's like 40 something years old, and he ran 109 for the half marathon like a few months ago. Yeah.
Do what you can. Do what you can. So talk to us, Danny, about your where's your ideal race? Where would you want to do that? I know you name dropped Patagonia a little while ago. So if you want to go back there, fine. If you want to go somewhere else,
Oh my gosh, that's really hard. Um, hmm. I mean, Patagonia was beautiful. Out of all the places that I've raced, the
Fair
two
enough.
the two that stick out to me are Patagonia and Scotland.
Mm.
They just both had this almost overwhelming type of beauty that I felt like I had only seen in pictures, and they just were both inspiring in their landscape. And there's a lot of places that inspire me. But like when I was in Scotland, I was like, wow, I can see why there's so much folklore around here. Like just it felt alive, and it was the same in Patagonia too. It just felt really untouched and untamed, and I liked that aspect of it.
Where were you in Scotland?
Glencoe.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like northern Scotland.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
One of the gnarliest races I've ran in my entire life. Scots are crazy, man. I was like, this is normal to you? We all almost died in a hailstorm. They're like, you'll be fine. Just go to the top. I'm like, there's a hailstorm coming, and I don't know. Yeah.
I think they call that sun. I think the hailstorm is sun.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was awesome. Yeah, if I were to make a race, oh man, that's such a hard question. I would say Canada or Patagonia. Both of them. I like a little bit of technical and a little bit of rolling. I like pine trees, and I like really blue water. So that would probably, those are the type of aspects I would look at. Yeah.
That's cool. All right.
Oh, as far as racing forward too, though?
Yeah, like, what are you thinking?
It's hard because I feel like the next one gets canceled, the next one gets canceled. I'm hopeful for the fall, but there's this really cool one called the Golden Series that Solomon puts on. And before it was like multiple races throughout the year, and obviously they're not able to capture points that way anymore. And so they just released this new structure, which I haven't seen before, or maybe they used to do it in the past, where it's like a 4-day stage race. And at the end of each day, they crown the best uphiller, downhiller, fastest person, and I forgot what the last one is. And then you wear that jersey, from what I understand.
The Tour de France, we've been talking about this.
That's awesome.
Gosh, we've been talking about this. It's a running Tour de France. Now you need teams. You need teams, and we need a domestique, and we need people. We need strategy and unitards. Maybe not unitards, but I was thinking this is great. I want to see it. I hope it happens.
Yeah, I hope it happens.
Would your domestiques in this race, Danny, would they bring you like sandwiches and stuff, like a hoagie? I mean, what do you?
You don't have to carry your water. You don't have to carry your peanut butter sandwich. They're handing you
cold pizza. I don't know. What do you want to eat? What do you want to eat on that thing? The domestique's got it for you.
A cold
Laird superfood. I think you want Laird superfood. What's the other thing?
Oh, well, kombucha. I can drink kombucha all day. I have a problem, man. Yeah. Addiction. Laird superfood. Have you ever tried their creamers?
No, I'm in. No.
I mean, you shouldn't be surprised because Laird is such a beast. But it is so good. Like the creamers are really good. I'm really gracious for that partnership. They're a really cool company. Yeah.
So what is this? Is it it's a superfood that goes in your coffee? What?
Yeah. They have like it's basically like dehydrated coconut water, and then they have like this algae thing in it, which is supposed to be good for you. And then they have different
flavors. What is that mushroom? That huge mushroom thing that he was making tea out of for a while too, or no?
I don't know about that.
Sorry.
That's cool.
That's a different superfood.
Yeah.
Totally. Like that's post-event.
Yeah.
No, he has like mushroom infused coffee, so he's really into mushrooms.
Thank you.
And then they have like a mushroom powder, which is like lion's mane and other mushrooms I can't pronounce. and then they have like a turmeric coffee thing, and yeah, they just have different flavors like that, which are cool.
Huh. We'll have to check it out. It sounds.
Yeah.
I'll take anything to spice up my morning routine or afternoon routine. Yeah, what is the morning anymore?
I don't even know. What day is it? I don't even know.
That's pretty cool. All right, so we got your event. We got some sky racing in Patagonia with Mystiques and custom jerseys.
We want in. We want to invest in this, in Dani's Sky Race in Patagonia.
All I want to do is like see Dani approaching the leaders and saying, "Oh, she's reaching into her suitcase of courage as she approaches the next summit." You know, like the whole full meal deal.
She's wearing like a polka dot jersey because she was the top hill finisher from the day before.
Yeah, this is great. This is fantastic.
This is great. I'm so glad we figured this out. It only took us 43 minutes to get here.
Yeah, that's it.
We got there.
That's it.
I will say my race would have a lot of technical downhill. That's my favorite thing. Is technical. Yeah.
You just send it. You go for it.
I go for it. And those are probably like my favorite compliments that I've gotten in running is when people are like, and then you just took off on the downhill and I couldn't catch you. Then we hit the downhill.
It's over.
Is it like orienteering where you can just take your own path, or do you have to stay on the trail on the downhill?
That's really funny because I feel like that's somewhat of a controversial topic in the trail and mountain world, in the sense that Europeans tend to do that because a lot of them come from an orienting background or like downhill skiing where you can just pick your line most of the time in like mountain races, whereas Americans tend to stick to the trail that's outlined.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a controversial, I think. So there are races that are trending that way now in the US that are kind of like trying to mimic traditional European races, not championship races, where they're like, you get to the top in whatever way you want, or there's 3 different routes to get to the top. I don't know if you guys have heard of Mount Marathon in Alaska, but that's like a pretty cool race where there's 2 ways to get to the top. You could pick either way.
That's cool.
Or like you could pick different ways, and then you get down however you can as long as you're on this side of the mountain. But yeah, it's an interesting topic. I have never done a race as of yet where you can pick the downhill, but I think that'd be super interesting.
You know who I guarantee would be into this? The Scots.
Yeah.
Choose your own adventure.
Choose your own adventure.
That's not a trail. I'll show you the trail.
Yeah. They don't even have, there aren't even trails. It's just like, that's the summit.
Why would I go that way if the top is right in front of me? We just go straight up that hill and we'll figure it out.
Oh man, good times.
That's good times.
That's fantastic.
I think we covered it all, and I'm really stoked, and I can't wait to see Dani's trail race in the future. I kind of want to see the Golden Series happen. Just because I want to see how a Tour de France and running works, because we've been thinking about it for a long time. Somebody's mind melded us and stole our idea. And Dani, thank you for the tour through Santa Barbara. And I think it's so cool that you went from serious track and field into choosing your own adventure in trail. Pretty fun.
For sure, Dani. So if someone's new to trail, let's do a little bit of your coaching on the way out here, right? Like someone wants to get into this, they're super inspired, why wouldn't they be? Not only do they have to do a little bit of training, but you mentioned a bunch of gear up, right? Like what kind of kicks are they looking to put on their feet? How do they prepare themselves not to get destroyed on the trails? Give us like a little bit of like top 3 tips. Give me a bit of gear, give me a bit of like prep, and give me a bit of recovery.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for people who are new to trails, and I kind of did this by default, and that was before I had a coach, is going by time first. I think if you're like a track or road runner, your life is dependent on your splits, or you get so used to, I run 8-minute pace, I run 7-minute pace, I run 10-minute pace. Yep. The trails, that just goes out the window. And so instead of being like, I'm going to go out for my typical 8-mile run, it's like, just go for an hour. That might be 4 miles on the trails, maybe 6 or 7, 8 if you're like a crusher from the beginning. But just to be nice to yourself in that way. So definitely go for time first. Get yourself a pair of trail shoes. I've taken friends who were very confident in their road shoes on the trails, and it did not turn out well. Even for me when I began, you just really make yourself susceptible to rolled ankles, and you want to try and avoid those bad experiences with the trail at the first hand. Personally, for me, I train in the HOKA Challenger ATRs pretty commonly, and the HOKA Torrents. They're kind of like lower profile shoes, a little lighter. A lot of people like the Speed Goats, but they're a little too heavy for how quick someone may want to try and move through the mountains. So those two. You have to carry your food and your water. I'm a big fan of belts, though I've noticed even like with other women, men tend to like handhelds. I think it's just like an upper body thing. But yeah, so I like belt.
Right.
Yeah.
They're always doing this. Swinging their arms with their weight.
Pulling the rope, man. Just like
milking some kind of running cow. Yeah.
milking the sky cow.
Yeah. But anything to carry water, again, trails are just so different. Like depending on where you live, the altitude variance, your heart works a little bit harder. Like again, going by the time. It's just once you start switching to mileage, you're out there longer. A 16-mile run on the flats is 2 hours. 60 miles in the mountains could be close to 3 hours. Just like that water, and something about pace changing. I scientifically haven't nailed it down, but something about pace changing like definitely messes with like how much food you need and water you need. But yeah, those would be my top tips for sure.
That's cool. And Josh, I'm so glad you asked that because I think there's so many people getting into the sport now of just running, like just getting out the door because they're, we don't have Soul Cycle and Orange Theory Fitness and any gym really at all in California at least. And running, seeing a boom, like there's people just throwing on whatever shoes they have and they're getting out running. But I could also see that group getting bored with the flat, boring stuff. And I think trail could be a great way to keep them engaged and keep them from getting bored.
For sure. That's, I mean, honestly.
And show them the connection. Yeah.
Yeah, we joke about this, but like, man, I love going into Huddart. I love going into Edgewood, like Water Dog Lake Park, all the parks kind of pocketed around here. I've never run a nice scene, which is something that I need.
Oh, you gotta come.
But now I'm all fired up to visit Santa Barbara because it sounds like some great spots to be. JT, one of the things that I've been thinking of is like you've actually got a pretty sweet event that's set up through. That allows you to kind of like experience a little bit like the California coastline, right?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we just started a virtual event because that's the only events we can have right now. So the Run Local events presents the California Coast 500, which is really just supposed to mimic 500 miles from Santa Monica Pier to the Golden Gate Bridge. It's sponsored by HOKA One, and we partner with Power Lab, who's going to help us track our miles just daily. You go out for a run, you go out for a trail run, you go out for even a hike or a walk, and you can watch your progress between Santa Monica and San Francisco. So that will start June 8th. Registration is open now at runlocalevents.com/California. If you get to runlocalevents.com, you're going to be able to find it.
Figure it out from there.
I think we're going to try to just put Dani on the spot to see if she'll participate.
Yeah, you want in, Dani?
Yeah, I do want in. That's such a cool concept, especially for people who live in California and have maybe like done a couple road trips that way, or along the coast, to be able to identify that with places you've seen. That's what excited me most. I'm like, I've been to Santa Monica Pier. I've been to most any place in between there and the Golden Gate Bridge, to be able to be like, today I reached Santa Cruz, or today I reached, the one or near Big Sur. That's so cool. I'm excited.
Yeah, we are too. We're trying to make it interesting for people who are just, maybe that's part of it. It's like their dual 3 miles or 5 miles or something they're fitting to be, and then sending you content that like you're in Santa Barbara now, and hit them up with a podcast from Dani Moreno, who's a trail runner there, and we're talking about these different things. So there's going to be some automatic emails and some introductions to places that they may not have explored.
Oh, that's sweet. That's awesome. Now I definitely want to sign up.
Cool.
So
all right, Josh, you're in too. So I got 2 people signed up right now. That's awesome.
Done.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, look,
We've almost got 1,000, which is really cool. 1,000 people running 500 miles. They're shooting for 500 miles this summer. We're gonna get some people fit.
That's cool. And Dani, super interesting conversation. So thanks for the time. If folks want to learn a little bit more about your background, who you are, how can they do that?
Yeah, so I have my own website, Dani/Moreno.com. I'm most active on Instagram. That's Dan_Yell, like YELL_A. Turns out there's a lot of Daniela Morenos in the world. And I just didn't feel like keeping my name and putting a number to it.
It's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
We will put your Instagram, your website, and things connected to it when we send it out to the listeners. So I hope they can then follow you there. And then maybe even if they're looking for coaching services as they get into trail,
Yeah,
you ready to take on some new athletes?
Yes, I have some spots. I just started coaching. Literally just last week, our collective kicked off. It's a really cool concept in that, like, we learn from each other. All the coaches kind of bring something different. We have weekly meetings, monthly meetings, and it's about knowledge share, which I hadn't seen before and what attracted me to the group. But yeah, I focus on, I could do road, track, and trail, but I'm mostly interested in people who are in that intro to trail phase. Again,
cool.
People just don't know who to ask questions. And I even have pro athletes ask me questions that are switching over that don't know how to do that switch like nicely. Yeah.
Nice. And what is the name of that again?
Chasqui Endurance Collective. Chasquis were I think it's the Aztec tribes. They were the folks that carried conch shells and would deliver important messages throughout their tribe.
Well, yeah. We've delivered a very important message
today. Important message.
Yes, we have. It's been a good day. All right. On behalf of Josh Moxon, thanks, bud, for being on here. I was low energy today, and there's no way I could have done this without you.
Good. This is great. Dani brought it. I mean, right from the
Dani did bring it. I learned a ton about trail. I'm kicking myself for not running in those trails all throughout college, but I'm coming back.
Dude, yeah. JT, we gotta plan a trail race, man. Like, just like to participate in, not to actually like organize.
Yes, 100% that. 2, run local trail needs to be a thing. And then I can't wait to see the Tour de France develop, and then Dani's future accomplishments.
So. That's going to be amazing. That is going to be amazing. Dani, huge thanks. This was great. This is definitely the highlight of my Sunday, possibly my whole week. Who knows? I'll have to look back on that. Cool. For sure.
I love it. So this is the Run Local podcast. Thank you, Dani Moreno. You can find out everything about Run Local events or Run Local apparel at runlocalevents.com. We'll put Dani's notes in the bottom of it. We also are starting a new thing. We've been doing it the last few weeks called Run Local Wednesday. It's hashtag Run Local Wednesday. It's where we really push for you to think local first on Wednesday. Monday is for Meatless Mondays. We can't fight that. Tuesday is for tacos. I'm not going head to head with tacos. Thursday is the new Friday. Kids are partying, a little face off in Isla Vista and everywhere else. Fridays, I'm aloha, like Shaka. I'm not gonna get aloha Friday. Saturdays are for the boys. Sundays for God and the NFL. Josh,
I don't know, man.
Run Local Wednesday. I'm like, hey, can I buy that thing on Amazon? Maybe, but you know what? I'm going to see if I can find it local first. And and can I go and do the other thing and eat local or whatever's going to be? Run Local Wednesday. We think run local first. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's great. All right, go out, do something local, support your local businesses. Not just Wednesday, but you can do it any other day of the week as well.
You can do it any day. You can do it any day. You really.
We're gonna chide you if you don't do it on Wednesday. That's for sure.
Exactly.
So,
peace.
Great job, Dani. Huge thanks. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I love it. Thank you both. Everyone be safe. We're out.
See ya.